The metal groaned deep under the earth. Dust floated in the air like slow snow there. In the dark belly of a crashed alien ship, a girl lay still. Her wrists were locked in heavy iron chains. Her ankles too. She was not asleep, just too weak to move. Her skin glowed faintly blue. Her long silver hair tangled around her face. Her name was Zura, and she had been forgotten. The lights in the broken ship flickered now and then. Strange sounds came from the shadows, clicks, thumps, whispers. Zura did not flinch. She had heard them for many days, maybe weeks. She had lost count. Her friends, her team, had left her here. Not by mistake, but on purpose. She still remembered their faces when they turned away. They had called her unstable, dangerous, and too risky. But worst of all, they had called her useless. Her body ached, her lips were dry. She tried to speak, but only a rough breath came out. Then something new happened. A sound soft, different, human. Boots walking slowly on metal. Zura's weak eyes opened wider. Someone was here. Not one of them, not like her. She knew the sound of human steps, and that gave her one strange feeling: hope. Ale climbed down the tilted hallway, flashlight in hand. He was a scavenger, not a hero. He came here looking for old tech to sell. Wires, batteries, anything. He had no idea someone was still alive down here. But when he saw her, he froze. There she was, chained to the wall, barely moving. Not a robot, not a corpse, a living alien girl. He raised his flashlight and pointed it at her face. She squinted, turned away. "Are you alive?" he asked. No answer, just a nod, slow and weak. He stepped closer, careful. "Who did this to you?" he asked, but she didn't reply. She just raised her chained hands slightly, as if begging. Eli looked around, nervous. This could be a trap. Maybe she was bait. Maybe others were watching. But her eyes didn't lie. They were full of pain, not trickery. Still, he kept one hand near his knife, just in case. He knelt down and touched the chains. Old tech, alien design, but rusted. He pulled out a tool from his belt. "This might hurt," he said, and began to cut. The first lot broke with a loud snap. Zura gasped, her fingers twitching. Then the second, then her ankles. The moment the last chain fell, a loud sound rang through the ship, a deep like a signal. Zura's eyes shot open wide. "No," she whispered. "They'll come now." "Who?" Ale asked, but she didn't explain. She tried to stand but fell forward. Ele caught her, surprised at how light she was. "You need help," he said, lifting her onto his back. "I didn't come here to be a hero, but I'm not leaving you like this." He carried her through the broken hallway. Metal bent under his boots. Sharp edges scraped past him. Zura's head rested on his shoulder, her breath shallow. "Why did they chain you?" he asked, more to himself than her. She didn't answer, but her hand lightly grabbed his shirt, like she didn't want to be left again. Outside, the sky was dark and stormy. Eli reached his small camp hidden in the hills. He laid her down on a blanket, gave her water. She drank slowly, carefully, her lips trembling. Eli sat nearby, staring at her. "I don't know who you are," he said, "or what they did to you. But if someone's coming, I need to know what I've gotten myself into." Zura opened her eyes and whispered, "My name is Zura. I was left behind." Then she passed out. Ale looked at her pale face. Then up at the dark clouds above. He didn't know it yet, but saving this one alien girl had just made him a target, and everything was about to change. The wind screamed across the hills, but underground, the shipwreck was silent again. Its broken systems blinked one last red light, then died. But something invisible had already left the ship. A signal, faint and strange, flew across the sky like a ghost. It was meant to stay silent forever. But the breaking of Zura's chains had changed that. Eli didn't know any of this. He sat beside the sleeping alien girl in his camp, looking at her peaceful face. She had not spoken again, just whispered her name, Zura, then fallen into sleep like she hadn't rested in years. He kept watching the shadows, hand near his weapon, waiting for trouble that hadn't come yet. The next morning, Zura woke up suddenly, eyes wide, body tense. She sat up too fast and gasped, her breath sharp and fast. "It's out," she said. Her voice low. "What's out?" Eli asked, walking over with water. Zura drank it, but her hands shook. "The pulse, the signal, they'll feel it," she said, looking at the sky like she could see something beyond it. Eli narrowed his eyes. "Who's coming?" She looked at him and whispered, "The ones who chained me." Eli didn't ask more. Not yet. She was weak, thin, and clearly scared. He gave her some food, wrapped her in a spare jacket, and checked his old scanner. Nothing strange on the radar. But his gut told him she was telling the truth. Zura sat near the fire, her fingers moving slowly over a small metal piece from the ship. She traced a symbol with her nail, one Eli didn't recognize. "What does it mean?" he asked. "It's a warning," she said. But they never listened. Eli sat down across from her. "Tell me what happened." She stayed quiet for a long time, then spoke. "We found something in deep space," she said. "An old machine. Very old. Not made by my kind, not made by any known race. It touched me," she whispered. "Not with hands, but with something else. It gave me a piece of it." Eli leaned in, confused. "A piece of what?" Zura's voice dropped lower. "Its memory, its purpose, its warning. They were afraid of me after that. They said I had changed, that I was unstable." She looked at the fire, eyes full of sadness. "So they tied me in chains and left me to die." Eli didn't speak for a while. Then he said, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." She blinked, unsure how to respond. "You don't chain someone just because they're different," he said. "You try to understand them." Zura stared at him, shocked, as if no one had ever said that to her before. The moment was quiet, almost peaceful. Then the scanner beeped. Eli jumped up and ran to check. A blip appeared on the screen, moving fast, then another. And another. Zura stood slowly, her body stiff, her breath cold. "They're here," she whispered. "They followed the signal." Eli grabbed his gear. "We have to go." Zura nodded. But her legs were weak. Without a word, Eli lifted her onto his back again. She didn't protest this time. They moved fast through the rocks and hills, deeper into the dead forest nearby. Eli knew a cave system that could hide them. Zura clung to him, her body shaking with fear. But there was something else now, a glow in her chest, faint and soft. Eli didn't see it yet, but it pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat, high above. 3 dark ships cut across the clouds, silent as knives. They didn't flash lights, didn't send warnings. They didn't come to rescue. They came to erase back in the cave. Zura sat beside the wall, her eyes shut tight. Eli lit a fire and handed her a small flask. "What do they want?" he asked. She opened her eyes, and they glowed slightly in the dark. "They want me erased," she said, "because I carry the voice of something they fear." Eli stared at her, unsure what to say. Zura looked at him carefully, then whispered, "But I don't want to be afraid anymore." Eli looked toward the cave mouth, where the sky flashed red for a second. He picked up his weapon and said, "Then you're not alone." The stars above twisted slowly, blinking like nervous eyes. 3 black shapes flew across the sky, silent and fast. No one saw them. No one heard them, except one. Zura sat deep inside the cave, her head resting on her knees, but her ears twitched slightly, and her skin began to glow again. "They've come," she said quietly. Eli looked up, but all he saw was a dark ceiling. He didn't question her anymore. If she said something was coming, he believed it. Eli stepped outside and scanned the treetops with his old binoculars. He saw nothing, but a cold breeze touched his neck. Then he heard it, just a whisper, like metal slicing air. He rushed back inside. "They're close," he said. "We don't have much time." Zura stood slowly, pressing her hand against the cave wall to stay balanced. Her body was still weak, but there was something new in her face, determination. "You should leave me," she said. "They only want me." Eli shook his head. "Not happening. You saved me," she said softly. but they'll destroy everything to stop me. Eli loaded his weapon. Fingers calm, then we make sure they don't. Far above. The lead hunter saw heat signatures near the cave. The target was alive and not alone. He activated a tracker node and sent a message. Found her, he said. Engage in 10. Zura and Eli moved deeper into the cave system. The walls were tight, wet, and cold, but they kept walking. Zura stopped suddenly and turned toward a tunnel that seemed blocked. She placed her hand against a stone with markings. It shimmered, then opened. Eli stared, surprised. You've been here before? He asked. Zura shook her head. No, but something inside me knows the path. They stepped into the secret passage as the hunters reached the mouth of the cave. Red lights scanned every rock, every crack. One of the hunters crouched, brushing. A warm footprint. They moved fast, he said. The leader pointed forward. They're still here. Zura led Eli through narrow paths until they reached a small underground chamber. Strange crystal lights glowed around them. In the center was a circle made of smooth stone, marked with alien language. Zura touched it and whispered words Eli couldn't understand. A soft hum filled the air, and for a second, the chamber felt alive. What is this place? Eli asked. Zura looked at the stone and said, a memory. This is one of the places the machine showed me. A place where truth sleeps. Eli stepped closer. Trying to understand. You said they're afraid of you, he said. Why? Zura turned slowly, her eyes glowing brighter now. Because the machine gave me something they can't control. It showed me what came before them. It gave me. A voice older than their laws. Before Eli could reply, a sharp sound echoed through the tunnels. Then a second louder closer. They found us, he said. Raising his gun, Zura didn't run this time. She placed her hand over the stone and whispered something. A wave of light shot out, and the tunnel behind them sealed itself. Eli stared at her, wide-eyed. What did you just do? Zura breathed hard. Delayed them, but not for long. High above, the hunters received the signal movement blocked. Power detected. She's using the vault's code. One of them said. The leader snarled. Then she really is. The key. Back underground, Zura collapsed to her knees. Eli ran to her side, catching her before she hit the ground. That drained you, he said. Did it hurt? She shook her head slowly. No, she whispered. It felt right. Eli held her close and whispered back. Then we fight for whatever's right too. Zura looked up at him, and for the first time, there was no fear in her eyes outside. The mountain shook gently. The hunters had found another way in. But this time, the girl in chains was not alone. And the human beside her was ready to face the storm. Asterisk, a sharp scream filled the chamber, but it didn't come from outside. It came from inside Zura's mind. She gripped her head, eyes shut tight, as if something invisible was trying to split her apart. Eli rushed to her side, but before he could touch her, she pushed him back with surprising force. Her hands glowed. Sparks danced across her fingers. Eli fell to the floor, stunned. Zura stood up, shaking, her breath wild, her eyes glowing too bright. She looked around as if she didn't know where she was. Her voice came out sharp, deeper than before. They burned me, she said. They locked me away. They said I was broken. Eli got to his feet slowly, holding his chest. Zura, it's me, he said, voice calm. You're safe, remember? But she didn't hear him. She raised her hand and energy flickered from her palm. Stay back, she warned, her body trembling. I don't want to hurt you too. Eli took a step closer anyway. I'm not your enemy, he said. You're not chained anymore. For a moment, her glow dimmed, her eyes blinking fast. Then she dropped to her knees. And the light faded. She whispered, I didn't want to lose control. Eli sat beside her, breathing hard. It's okay you didn't. Silence fell again, thick and heavy. Zura wiped her face with shaky hands. I thought I could control it, she said. But it's growing. Eli looked at her, confused. What is? She hesitated, then pointed to her chest. The energy, she said. It's not just power, it's a memory, a voice, a seed of something old, Eli tried to understand, but it was beyond anything he had ever known. Is it dangerous? He asked. Yes, she said softly, if used wrong. But it also holds truth, the kind that breaks chains. They sat together in silence until Zura regained her strength. Then Eli checked the scanner. 3 red dots. Closer now. They'll be here in minutes, he said. Zura stood up slowly, her eyes steady. Then we don't run this time. Eli nodded, then handed her a small device. What's this? She asked. A shield projector, he said. Old human tech, but it might buy us time. She looked at it, surprised. You trust me to use it? I'd trust you with my life, Eli said. Because I already did. She smiled faintly. The first smile he'd seen on her face. Then the tunnel wall shook, a loud blast echoing down the stone. They're breaching the side entrance, Eli said, grabbing his rifle. Zura stepped forward, raising her hand. Let them come, she said, her voice stronger now. They chained me because I was afraid of what I could be, but I'm not afraid anymore. The first hunter entered the chamber. Armored, tall, eyes glowing red. He saw Zura and stopped. You should have stayed chained, he growled. Zura didn't move. You're too late, she replied. The second and third hunters entered behind him, weapons raised. Eli took cover behind a rock. Aiming his rifle, Zura activated the shield projector, and a soft blue dome surrounded her and Eli. Energy blasts hit it, cracking the air like thunder. Eli returned fire, but they were outgunned. Zura stepped forward again, this time beyond the shield. Energy rose from her feet like mist. Her hands lit up, her eyes burned bright. The hunters paused, unsure what she was doing. I was never your weapon, Zura shouted. I was your warning. She clapped her hands together, and a pulse of light exploded outward. The cave shook. The hunters screamed as their armor cracked. One of them fell, sparks flying from his chest. The others backed away, stunned. Eli watched in awe, unable to speak. Zura dropped to one knee, breathing hard. The light faded again, but the damage was done. 2 hunters escaped, dragging their fallen leader. They would report what they saw, but they would never forget it. Eli rushed to Zura and caught her before she fell. You did it, he said. She nodded slowly, her voice low. They'll send more. But now they know I'm not alone. Outside, the clouds rolled darker. Something bigger was coming, but the human and the girl he unchained were ready. The forest was quiet, too quiet. Even the wind refused to blow, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Eli crouched behind a moss-covered rock, fingers gripping his rifle tightly. Across the narrow canyon, the bait was in place. Zura stood alone in the open, her body still, eyes locked on the sky. She looked calm, but her hands trembled behind her back. This was not a mistake, it was a trap, and the bait had agreed to it. I don't like this, Eli whispered through the communicator. Neither do I, Zura replied softly. But they won't stop chasing unless we turn and face them. They had planned it all night. The fake signal, the hidden minefield, the cave exit blocked. Behind them, if the hunters came, they would come here to catch her again. But this time she wasn't helpless, and she wasn't alone. Suddenly, a sharp hum echoed from the sky, then another, louder and closer. Eli's eyes snapped upward, and there they were. 3 dark shapes cutting through the clouds, engines silent but deadly. Zura stood taller, eyes glowing faintly, her fear swallowed by purpose. They're coming, she said, just like we wanted. The ships landed in the clearing with perfect precision. 3 new hunters stepped out, taller, stronger, covered in armor that shimmered black and silver. These were not scouts, these were elites. One of them spoke, voice deep and full of hate. You broke the silence, he said, walking toward her. You were warned never to speak. Zura didn't move. You left me to die, she replied calmly. And now you're afraid of what I remember. The hunter raised a weapon, long and sharp. You are not a voice, you are a mistake. Before the weapon could fire, the ground beneath him exploded. A trap Eli had planted charges beneath the path. The hunter was thrown back, his armor cracked. Zura raised her hand, and energy blasted forward, slamming into the others. Eli sprinted across the rocks. Rifle ready, shots fired from both sides. Sparks and smoke filled the air. Zura fought like lightning, quick and bright. Eli moved like fire, fast and wild. Together, they confused the enemy, turned their own plan against them. One hunter reached Zura and struck her with a shock baton. She cried out, falling to her knees. Eli screamed her name, but she raised her hand, even in pain. The energy inside her burned bright for 1 second, and the hunter was blasted away. The trap worked, but not without cost. Zura was hurt. Eli's leg was bleeding. The last remaining hunter escaped into the forest. Sending a signal, more would come. Eli dropped beside Zura, pulling her up. "We need to move," he said, but she didn't look at him. Her eyes were focused on something else. A small device fallen from one of the hunter's belts. She picked it up slowly, her hands shaking. "It's a memory core," she whispered. Eli looked closer, confused. "What kind of memory?" he asked. Zura held it tightly, her voice low and heavy. "The kind they tried to bury." They escaped into the forest, hiding under thick roots and old tunnels. That night, beside a small fire, Zura connected the core to a power cell. A blue light flickered, and a hologram appeared in the air. It showed her young, unchained, inside a dark chamber. Voices whispered in the recording. "She's the key," one said. "If she speaks the old language, it will wake the vault," said another. "Then silence her," came the cold final voice. Zura stared at the image, her hands shaking. "They knew," she said. "They always knew." Eli sat beside her, stunned. "They were scared of your voice," he said, "because the truth you hold could change everything." Zura didn't answer right away. She turned to him and whispered, "If I open the vault, I might not survive." Eli looked straight at her and replied, "Then I'm opening it with you." In the sky far above, a much larger ship received the hunter's final signal. The commander of the silent fleet looked at the screen and said just one word, "Awaken." But down below, under the stars, the girl who had once been chained now held the power to break the chains of others. And the human who once came for scrap was now fighting for something far greater. Asterisk. The cavern breathed with shadows, walls alive with whispers from the past. Zura's fingers brushed over the smooth, glowing stone. Light pulsed beneath her touch. As if the ancient walls recognized her, she took a deep breath, the weight of history pressing on her chest. "This place," she whispered, "holds the answers I never wanted." Eli stood behind her, watching the shifting light. "I don't understand what you see," he said, "but I'm here." Zura smiled faintly. "That is more than enough." Suddenly, the floor trembled beneath them. A hidden door slid open, revealing a spiral staircase winding deep into the earth. Cold air spilled upward, carrying the scent of forgotten secrets. They descended carefully, every step echoing in the stillness. At the bottom, a chamber stretched wide, walls lined with ancient scripts and glowing symbols. In the center, an orb floated, humming softly with power. Zura approached it slowly, eyes wide with wonder and fear. "This is the heart of the vault," she said. "The source of the memory, the truth they tried to hide." Eli stepped closer, hand on his weapon. "What happens if you touch it?" Zura hesitated, then placed her hand on the orb. A surge of energy coursed through her, visions flooding her mind. Old wars, lost civilizations, betrayal beyond time. She gasped, stumbling back. "The machine spoke through me," she said, voice trembling. "They chained me because I carry its voice, its warning." Outside, distant rumbling warned them hunters closing in fast. Eli grabbed her arm. "We need to move now." But Zura held the orb tightly. "Not yet." She whispered an ancient phrase, and the orb's glow enveloped them both. Suddenly, the chamber walls shifted, revealing hidden passages, escape routes long forgotten. Eli grinned. Looks like your voice can open more than just old locks, Zura nodded. And it can keep us alive. As they made their way through the labyrinth, the hunters' footsteps echoed behind them, but the vault's secrets had become their shield. Every door they passed whispered warnings, traps set to protect the truth. And with each step, Zura grew stronger, her fear melting into fierce resolve at last. They reached a cavern filled with light. Zura turned to Eli. This is just the beginning. He smiled. Then we'll face whatever comes together. Outside, the sky darkened. The silent fleet preparing for war, but deep underground, the girl once chained was awakening a power older than stars, and a human stood by her side, ready to change fate itself. ChatGPT said. The sky burned crimson as the sun dipped low. The air was thick with tension, every breath heavy with the promise of battle. Eli tightened his grip on his weapon, muscles ready, eyes sharp, beside him. Zura stood tall, her silver skin glowing softly in the fading light. No longer a girl chained and forgotten, but a warrior awakened. They watched the first ships descend. Massive shadows cutting through the clouds. Hunters, armed and merciless, pouring from their vessels like storm clouds. Zura's heart pounded, but her hands were steady. She raised them slowly, and energy crackled from her fingertips. It ends here, she said, voice calm but fierce. The ground shook as the hunters advanced, weapons raised. Eli fired first. Sparks flying as shots met armor. Zura stepped forward, releasing a pulse of light that stopped their march. The hunters faltered, confused by the power she wielded. But their leader snarled, stepping out, eyes blazing with fury. You were meant to be silent, he growled. Not a beacon, Zura smiled, a flash of defiance lighting her face. I was chained to silence, she said, but now I am the voice of those who cannot speak. With a cry, she unleashed a wave of energy, knocking hunters off their feet. Eli fought beside her, every shot precise, every move protecting her. The battle raged, light against darkness, hope against fear. Zura called to the Forsaken Ones, voices long lost. One by one, figures emerged from the shadows, alien warriors freed by her power. They joined the fight, turning the tide. The leader fell, his armor shattered, his rage broken. The hunters retreated, defeated but not destroyed. Zura dropped to her knees, breathing hard. Eli knelt beside her, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. We did it, he said softly. But this is only the beginning. The stars blinked above, silent witnesses to the dawn of something new. A bond forged in chains broken. A future shaped by a human and the alien girl he freed. Together, they would face whatever came next, because now they were not alone.